the very best experience on the Oceania Vista and avoid the most common mistakes that people make, stay with me. I just spent 10 glorious days on the Vista, and I'm going to share with you the best things to do and the things to avoid. My goal on every cruise that I go on is pretty simple. I do my due diligence, my research, and all of my preparation to make the cruise as all-inclusive as possible. Now that's pretty difficult when you're working with a cruise like Oceania as a brand, which is called a Premium Plus category. It's not designed to be all-inclusive. So you have to do the things that create it that way, so that at the end of the week, or the 10 days in my case, no invoice is put under your door that has any amount that's substantial. Now that's a goal, and I've achieved that in all of my past cruises. Now the difference is, if this was a luxury or ultra luxury cruise, all those things would have been included. It would have been much easier. But Oceania oftentimes provides you with an itinerary that suits you best, and the cruise is elevated and the ship is lovely. Now to help you, what I've done is 3 YouTube videos before this one. The first one had to do with preparation and strategy. The second one had to do with the actual preparation pre-cruise on activities. The third one had to do with tips, tricks, and secrets. I'm going to put the playlist in my description below. Feel free to look at those before or after this. And I think they'll really help you understand my foundation and where I'm going with everything that I'm going to share with you here today. All the cruises have the same strategy. Do the work up front. Enjoy the process. Take your time. It makes for a much better overall cruise. That I assure you. This Mediterranean cruise for 10 days was our second voyage on Oceania. The first one was also the Mediterranean. Some of the same ports, some different ports. It was my wife, myself, and our best friends, Howard and Diane Winkler. This cruise left on October the 13th and came back on October 23rd. And it was a wonderful experience. Now, please watch this video all the way through. I'm also going to give you a table of contents that will be down in my description to help you go to specific areas that suit you the best. But I want you to know this is much, much more than a review. It's a roadmap. It's a roadmap for you to use when you go on your cruise. It'll give you the good, the great, and the unexpected that happens. Things that can make or break your cruise. Now here's what you're going to learn in this video. There's going to be 10 things. The first thing is what we did on embarkment day. And that will also, by the way, include prior to embarkment, because we spent some time on land. Second, our Penthouse Suite. A little bit about it, the good, the bad, and the unexpected. 3, the service, specifically personalized service. 4, the food and dining. 5, the bars, the lounges, and the drink package. 6, the spa and our treatments. 7, getting on and off the ship at ports and also when we disembarked. 8, the 2 Oceania excursions that we did select and why we selected them. 9, the entertainment. And 10, disembarkment day. We're going to end up with a summary at the end, and it will be a nice tight package to help you and advise you on how to best approach your cruise. Now let's talk about embarkment day. But first, the cruise left out of Monte Carlo. What a wonderful place. I only saw it in pictures and videos. It truly was spectacular, especially the lovely hotel that we stayed in. But let me take you back a few days. When I was planning all this, and I really shared this with you in one of my videos on planning and strategy, was I had to find a way to get to Nice, because Monte Carlo's airport is really Nice. And you go into Nice, and you take a van over to Monte Carlo. Well, it was very expensive. and I was going to try to use points or keep my costs down as low as possible. So I tried to find the best place to go into, and because of my travel in the past, I said, you know what, let's try, I don't know, Brussels. So we went to Brussels first, and it was far less expensive than going into Nice. We spent a day in Brussels. The next day we took a bullet train to Paris. The next day we took a quick flight from Paris to Nice and right on to our port, which was in Monte Carlo. Now, just rule of the road, a rule for cruising. You always go in at least one day early so that if there's any hiccups at the airport, it doesn't affect your ability to get on the ship. But because of all this, and because of trying to get my costs down as much as possible, we did 3 days. I'll tell you what, we wouldn't do that again. It was just too little time in these 3 places. In the future, what we'll do is we'll go into one place, like we'll go into Paris for 3 days and then take a quick flight to Monte Carlo. Or we'll go into Brussels for 3 days, then take a quick flight to Monte Carlo, if that's the case. But I learned hopping from place to place every day, it was just too much stress. So you live and you learn. So we're at embarkment day. Now, the trip from the hotel to the actual port was only 15 minutes, and we had a ton of luggage. So we needed to get a nice van. So I always do that prior to going to the hotel so that it's a no-brainer. So we got in the van. It took 15 minutes to get to the port. We dropped off our luggage. I will say this, a credit to Oceania and also the people that were at the port. It was simple. It was much easier and less stressful than when you go to Miami, which is the majority of the ports I've gone out in my cruise lifetime. Also, another shout out to Oceania. They sent us these really beautiful high quality plastic tags for your luggage. So you get these tags, you put them on, and now the crazy people at the airport and all the people that touch your luggage, those tags are on paper and they don't come off. I found that to be a really luxurious experience, and it really improved our overall experience of dropping off our luggage at the port. Now, within minutes, we were taken right into security, and security was a breeze. It was probably the easiest security I've ever been on, and I noticed it wasn't crowded. Now, one of my strategies is get there as early as possible. So when you can actually check in, I check in as soon as possible online to get the earliest time on the ship. Now, I use that, 1, to cut down on the crowds, 2, to go through security easy, but I also have some other strategies that I'm going to share with you later that I want to do the moment I get on the ship. So we go through, we go out, we go down to, I think it was the Vista Lounge, and there's a desk, and on the desk is like 10 people. So the line goes really quick. I think it took a couple of minutes to get to the line. They give you name, they take your documents, they ask you a few questions, they give you your card for your suite, and then they send you off to muster. It was from the time I dropped off the luggage to the time I'm walking towards muster, it was maybe 15 minutes. Now that's better than most, and I was kind of impressed. Now that being said, part of the real benefit here is that the ship only holds 1,250 people, whereas other ships I've gone on, especially when I've gone on ships that have the ship within a ship category, like the Haven or the Retreat or the Yacht Club, there's 5,000 people. When you only have 1,250 people, it makes a difference, and it's one of the reasons why at this stage in my life I gravitate towards a smaller ship. Now, my first strategy, the moment that I got onto the actual cruise ship, was to focus on getting additional specialty restaurant reservations. Now, when I went in 2023, I was in a Vista Suite. In the Vista Suite, there was 3 top suites. There's the Oceania Suite, the Vista Suite, and the Owner Suite. When you have those, you actually get 2 guaranteed specialty restaurants that you can book pre-cruise. But this time I was in a penthouse, so I got 1. So 4 nights were covered, and I made sure I got on early to get the times that I really wanted. Now, strategically, I knew from many past cruises, leave the first night open. It's the easiest night to get an additional specialty restaurant, and that's exactly what we did. So when we went in, we were geared towards muster, and I geared away from the muster to go directly to deck 5, where they actually do the reservations for the specialty restaurants. I got online, I was third in line, and the person that was in line was taking an exorbitant amount of time. I guess they were completely confused and they were getting upset, and it just was a really long time. I was getting a little frustrated. And then one of the staff went over to another desk and said, we're going to open this desk up. And I literally ran to them, and I got there first. I handed them an index card, and on the index card, I had all the other nights or days that I wanted to go and have a specialty restaurant, and in the name of the specialty restaurant. So remember, I had 4 already booked. It's a 10-day cruise, so I'm looking to book as many as I possibly could. But here's what I learned, and hopefully this will help you. That day, they were able to book me into Red Ginger at 7 o'clock. Perfect. But they wouldn't book any other day, and they said point blank, the only way that you can get an additional specialty restaurant is the day you want to go. So if the next day I didn't have anything booked, I'd have to go that day and go up to the desk. Well, I did. I did it throughout the entire week. I did luck out with yet another Red Ginger later on in the week. But the secret to getting additional specialty restaurants is this. If you go to the restaurant between 8 and 8:15 and they had a cancellation or they have open tables, they will help you. I was unable to do that in most cases because the ship was completely booked. But the secret, leave the first night open. Go directly to the desk on deck 5 and you'll get lucky too. Now on to the mustard drill, which is, whether you like it or not, it's a must-do ritual. The neat part is you go to the mustard drill station. They just check your cards and make sure everybody that's going to be in your cabin's there. And when you go and you finally get into your suite, you go on the TV and you watch the video again. Now they sent you the video and I watched it 2 or 3 times. They send it to you over and over. They make sure that you watch that video, but you have to actually do it on the TV in the ship when you get into your suite, because it will not allow the information system to let you into movies or anything else without doing that. But it was simple. Now I'm going to give you a comparison. Recently, this past year, I went on a Disney Dream cruise. It was 4 days, and the mustard drill was like the old mustard drills. You go to a place, it's filled with people, you spend 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of your cruise. It didn't make any sense. It was like a flash from the past. This method of just checking in and watching the video was 10 times better. So I give Oceania a thumbs up on that. Now, the more cruises you go on, the more you learn your mistakes. And I made a mistake in 2023. Now, you all have to understand, I'm the one in my group that does all the planning. Nobody helps, nobody participates, they count on me. So all my wife wanted when we got on in 2023, she wanted her first drink, and I don't blame her. So did the rest of my group. So I didn't really have a plan on where to go to get the drink. And quite frankly, I frustrated them. I didn't want to do that this time. I learned my mistakes. That's part of videos like this. So I knew exactly where to go. And I'm going to tell you, the best place to go for that first drink is the pool bar. Not only is it empty, but it's beautiful. So we went to the pool bar, we got our first drink, maybe 2, possibly 3, and then we moseyed on to lunch, which by the way was at the Terrace Café. Now my recommendation when you go to the Terrace Café is go to the back and go outside. Now remember, we're in Monte Carlo, so that view was spectacular. So we go outside, we find a table for 4, we order another drink. Yes, 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 we are those people. And then we go out to the buffet and we look to what we want. Now, I was a little disappointed because at the carving station on day one, they had turkey. Now, I like turkey. It was an option, but usually they have prime rib on day one. No beef. So I looked around, I didn't see anything I wanted, so I went to the grill. There's an actual grill there. So I went to the grill and I ordered a bacon cheeseburger, which, by the way, to their credit, they made it fresh. And they said, just come back in about 7 minutes, it'll be ready. Now, right there is a difference between Premium Plus, Luxury, and Ultra Luxury. In Premium Plus, they make it from scratch, but they tell you to come back in 8 to 10 minutes. But on Luxury and on Ultra Luxury, they do the same thing. However, they bring it to you or they give you a pager. And when the pager goes off, you can go get it, or a server takes your pager and goes and gets your food. There's just little differences between Premium Plus, Luxury, and Ultra Luxury. So just understand. Remember what I said? I try to make this as all-inclusive as possible. Well, I try to make it as luxurious as possible as well. Now, my criteria is, can I get into my suite before 1:30? And the answer in this cruise was yes. It was actually announced that the penthouses were available at 1 o'clock and the concierges were available at 1:30. Now, our friends were concierges, we were penthouse, we went there. My next criteria is my luggage there, or how long do I have to wait for my luggage? Well, I am pleased to tell you that when we got to our suite at 1 o'clock, our luggage was waiting for us outside. When our friends got to their suite at 1:30, their luggage was ready. I thought that was great, because what you do is you take it in real quick, you put everything up, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Otherwise, you're walking around saying, we got to go back to the suite because our luggage is going to be there. No, it was perfect. The timing was perfect. All the luggage when we unpacked went underneath the bed. Perfect. Now, the penthouses have a butler, and I'll talk about butlers later, but the butlers, part of their job is they'll unpack for you. We never do that. We never have them pack or unpack. That's the one thing that we just doesn't feel right. But what felt right was getting there early, getting unpacked, and going out to venture and see the ship. Now, before you know it, because you're so excited, you waited so long to be on the ship, it's almost time for pre-dinner drinks. So you got to get ready and prepared. It's your first night, you're excited. And our ritual is to go to our favorite bar. And our favorite bar is Martini's. So we go for a pre-drink at Martini's, and then we went to Red Ginger. Now, for those of you that were on the ship and met myself and our friends, sorry we were so loud. Sorry we were enjoying ourselves so much. Sorry that we were crazy a little bit. We are those kinds of people. But what was funny is most people looked at us, they were smiling. A lot of people joined us, and there were a few that gave us the side eye. But I make no excuses and I make no apologies. I'm on a cruise ship to have a great time, and that's exactly what we did. On to Red Ginger. Now, in 2023, Red Ginger was our favorite restaurant. It was kind of a toss-up between Red Ginger and Jacques. And so to have Red Ginger the first night, what a great experience. We went in and it was just the way it was the last time. It was delicious. The service was great. I highly recommend, and I'll bring this up a little bit later, to get the chef's special sushi. I had the rack of lamb. Other people had other items. Everything was delicious. But I'm going to throw some caution out here. We had the prestige drink package. It's an unlimited drink package. You have to pay a little bit more for it. I'll discuss it later. So I made an assumption, and it was the wrong assumption. While I was sitting there that night, I just wanted to have the best time possible, and I asked him for some sake. And he said, sure. So he brought me sake. I didn't like it, so I didn't drink it, but that's not a problem. I have the prestige package. At the end of the meal, they ask you for your room cards to see what kind of drink program you have. So I handed it to him. He left. He came back with a bill for $31. And I said, whoa, I have an unlimited drink package. He says, sake's not included. That is an unforced error. I'll talk about that later on. But I should have been informed that sake had an expense. And at no point in time was that brought to my attention. No menu was given to me showing me a price. Keep that in mind when you're at Red Ginger. So let's talk about the Penthouse experience. Before we go too much further, I want to go back to what happened to me in 2023. In 2023, I stayed in one of the upper end suites. Now there are three. One is called the Oceania, the Vista, and the Owner Suite. I stayed in the Vista Suite. So a lot of people online said, we'll be interested to see what Gary's impression is between the Vista Suite, which was huge, and the Penthouse Suite. Well, I'm going to give you that information now. Now, first thing you need to know, did I miss not having 2 reservations pre-cruise for each one of the specialty restaurants? Yes, of course. Did I miss the bar with 6 bottles of spirits? Of course I did. Did I miss the huge deck and the big room, the huge room? Yes. Did it make a difference to my overall satisfaction? No, it didn't. The Penthouse was, as my wife says, just enough, but not too much. So the Vista Suite was just enormous. You know, when we had people over, it was great. But just for 2 people, I can't think of a better suite than the Penthouse Suite on an Oceania Vista cruise. So let's talk about the bathroom. It was beautiful. But remember, this is relatively a brand new ship, but it was beautiful. It was just large enough. It had 2 sinks. It had a rainfall shower. It had plenty of storage, plenty of electrical outlets. It, in general, was really, in my opinion, for 2 people, a perfect bathroom. Now, there's some things I want to talk to you about. One is the robe. Everyone in a penthouse, and I believe in other suites, gets this beautiful, luxurious, fluffy robe. I warn you, don't take that robe out of your room. Don't take the robe out of your room, because if you do, they'll charge you for another robe, and you don't want to have that on your portfolio. I almost learned that the hard way, but I corrected it. That being said, so when you go to the spa or any place else, or to the pool, you can't take that robe. Now, when you go to the spa, and I'll talk about that later, they'll give you a robe if you ask for it, but you actually have to ask for it. So just keep that in mind. And that right there is a subtle, but a difference between Premium Plus, which is Oceania, Luxury, and Ultra Luxury. In Ultra Luxury, you can take your robe all over the ship, and they'll put another robe in your room. Just little bits of differences. And if I'm going to do a fair evaluation, I want you to know that. But once you know the rules, and I'm sharing the rule with you, everything works out lovely. Now I'm going to add something, but I don't know if I'm going to be much help. A lot of people ask me about the amenities. It's my understanding that the amenities have changed. But they were fine. They did the job. I will say that if you're a person that needs a hairdryer, bring your own. The one it's adequate. But if you really need a hairdryer and you're used to your own, bring your own. Now, that's another subtle difference. I was just on the Explorer Journeys. And in Explorer Journeys, they actually have Dyson hairdryers. You don't have to bring your own there. So again, I want you to understand the subtle differences between Premium Plus, Luxury, and Ultra Luxury. It'll help you make a good decision if you ever want to compare them. So let's also talk about what else is in the closet. You have your pressing, which you get 4 pieces of pressing. It's either 4 or 5, but you have to do it within the first 24 hours. And that seems fair, and it's complimentary. You also have 3 bags of laundry that you can do throughout the week. It's about a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time, and each bag has 20 items in it. And if I'm not mistaken, that's not only available for a penthouse, but it's the concierge level and above. And it's very convenient. You also, on the ship, have complimentary laundry. But the secret to that is going early or going late And don't do it at the end of the week because that's when everybody else is doing their laundry. So let's talk about the suite itself. As I said before, is it as nice as the Vista suite that I stayed in? Obviously not. But the difference in price and value, as my wife says, it was more than perfectly adequate. It's perfect for 2 people. So let's talk about the bed. Super comfortable. No worries. You can also get different pillows if you want it. So they make the bed and your sleep great. Now remember, there's been a lot of complaints about noise on the Vista. Now they're going to correct that in their upcoming update on the ship. They know that. But in my specific room, which was on deck 11, towards the front of the ship, I didn't hear any noise. I didn't hear any TVs. I didn't hear any noise or conversation. So my room was perfect. I can't say that's going to be your room, but it was perfect. Just remember, if noise is an issue, and noise is an issue for me, bring either earplugs or noise reduction headphones. That's what I wear. I wear noise reduction headphones in bed because I sleep flat on my back. I also watch like TikTok or YouTube at night. It's just my way of traveling. I do the same thing at home, by the way. It helps me sleep. Now, from an organizational tips standpoint, you can ask your butler and or reach out to Oceania pre-cruise and get things like extension cords for a CPAP or water for CPAP. You can get things together so that when you're there, they're already waiting for you. I thought it was a nice touch to have a dining table, small one, but enough for 2, and 2 chairs. I thought that was lovely, specifically because my butler every morning at my instruction at 7:45 brought in 2 cappuccinos and 2 danishes, and he never missed. Never missed at all. It was white tablecloth as long as you weren't sleeping. If you were sleeping, he just put the tablecloth on the table and he put the stuff on the table. But every single morning at 7:45, chef's kiss, perfection. That's the way to live. Now the sofa and cocktail table was also nice because it was on an angle. You could see the TV. It was a nice place to sit. If our friends came to the room, it was comfortable. We just turned the chairs from the actual dining over towards the couch. Perfect. That brings us to our welcome bottle of champagne. Not. It used to be champagne. It's Prosecco now. Now, did it make a difference to me? Absolutely not. I don't drink it either way. We usually find somebody that's on a honeymoon and we give them, whether it's champagne or it's Prosecco. Again, it didn't make a difference to me, but understand, don't be disappointed. It's not going to be champagne. It's going to be Prosecco. You want champagne? Then pay double and stay in either an Oceania Vista or owner suite. You'll get your champagne then. So let's move on. Afternoon snacks. You can have them or not have them. There's actually a menu that's on your desk, and you take the menu and you click off what you want that day and you just leave it for your butler. And it comes. Now, we didn't do it once, but every day or two, the butler would leave us a little snack. And it was nice. But we learned a long time ago not to do that because what it does is it takes away your hunger from your meal. And if the ship that you're on has good food, which this does, you want to be as hungry as possible. So you could take advantage of it. We did not. Doesn't make it right or wrong. Now the veranda. The veranda was larger than a concierge. It had 2 chairs with cushions and a table. And if you wanted a lounge chair, all you had to do was ask your butler. There was plenty of room out there for it. It was a lovely size and it had a lovely view. So, who could ask for more? Now let's talk about the butler experience. Now, I've written about this and talked about this a lot. Over the years, the last 10 years, butlers have been hit or miss. And I'm going to talk about how to make it more of a hit for what you want just in a little while. But let's talk about this just a bit. Your expectations for your butler, especially on a mainstream premium plus cruise line, needs to be realistic. They have a lot of rooms to deal with. And I'll tell you what happened. Our butler came in and every single time I saw him, his phone would ring and he'd have to excuse himself and take the phone. This guy was busy 24/7. So you have to understand they get a lot of rooms. Now, if you're on a luxury or an ultra luxury, they have far less rooms. They can do a better job as a butler. But what I do with the butler is I ask them for just some simple requests. For example, I spoke earlier about the Danish in the cappuccino at 7:45 in the morning, not a problem. Or water for my CPAP, or an extension cord for my CPAP. All these things are not a problem. I wanted an additional lounge chair out on the veranda. Not a problem. The key is communication with your butler. The better you communicate, the better the butler can help you. Now I have a secret weapon. I call it the butler letter. I started to do this 10 years ago, and the moment I started, I had better service from our butlers. And I listed the things I just said to you. I was very complimentary. I was not demanding. And I reminded the butler that when we're at home, we're our own butlers. We're our own chefs. We're our own cleaning people. We do it all. We take out the garbage. So when you go on a cruise, you want to kind of feel like a rock star for 7 to 10 days, but it's hard to let it go. So I express how much we appreciate. And I let them know a little bit about us, what we like, what we don't like, our background. And it really helps them do an outstanding job. Because great butlers just don't do what you have listed. They think through what would make this vacation even better for these people. Now, the butler that we had was outstanding. The second best butler I ever had, the best butler I ever had, was on Crystal Cruises. He was beyond, you cannot compare. But this one was second, and close, but not exact. And I was thrilled. And I think you will be too. It seems they're taking more time to train, educate, and have butlers that really want to make it as close to a luxury experience as possible. Now let's talk about the executive lounge, which, by the way, is on deck 11. It's a nice little place. It's quiet. There's TV in there. They have snacks sometimes. They have a great coffee machine to help you with it. We'll talk about coffee later. And there's a concierge that's in there. Nice guy. Nice guy. A little too talkative. Took a little bit too much time with everybody. Just kept on going and going and going and going and going. But nice guy. I see why he's there. I see why he has the job that he has. Now I asked him, how can I get additional specialty restaurant reservations? And he said, well, I can make a phone call and see if anything's available today. And so this wasn't the first day. The first day I had my own at Red Ginger, and he did. And he said, well, I got you another Red Ginger, so now I'll have 3 Red Gingers for the week. That's great. But when I went back, here is the advice that he gave me, and it was sound advice. It was sound. Go to the restaurants between 8 and 8:15. Go to the front desk, ask them if they have any availability, and if they do, they'll have you sit. You might get disappointed, and they say, well, I'm sorry, we're booked up. In most cases, for the week, the 10 days that we were there, we didn't have any luck at all. And the reason was because it was completely booked. The ship was completely booked. And I'll talk about specialty restaurants, they were better than they were in 2023. Now let me get to specialty restaurants and discuss that with you. So we weren't disappointed, but that's the advice. 8 to 8:15. And now we had 4 people in my party, so there's 4 specialty restaurants. Guess what we did? Everybody had their phone. We went to each one of the restaurants. We asked, and we fell short. But we did our best. That's the best strategy to get a reservation at a specialty restaurant. Now, to me, just personally, at this stage in my life, which is being retired for 8 years, there is an aspect of cruising that means more to me than almost anything, and that's personalized service. So let me tell you my background really quickly. What brought me back to cruising some years ago, and what got me excited about it again, was this notion of a ship within a ship. So it's a big mega ship, like NCL, and it has this area that's a VIP area where the ship holds 4,000 guests, but there's a VIP area that holds 250, and it's called the NCL Haven. Celebrity has the retreat, MSC has the yacht club, same basic concept. It's a ship within a ship. To get into this area, you need a key card. Can't let your friends in if they're not in there. They usually have private dining room and lounges and pools, and it's really neat. And when you're in there, the personalized service is really good. But when you leave, it's all over. You become a number. and it's completely different. I wanted a ship that had personalized service where no matter who you were or what cabin you were in, when you left your cabin, you were treated exactly the same. Now, when you're in your cabin, you might have different amenities, or you might have a butler, or you might have your little bar in there, whatever it is in the cabin that you have. But when you leave, everybody's treated the same. I didn't want any classes. And that's exactly what Oceania provides. So now please understand Oceania's personalized service from the general manager who I went out of my way to meet. I always do that. To all the people at guest services, I go, I make them laugh, I let them know who I am, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. It's because if I have an issue, an issue on a cruise ship that's a nice hotel in the middle of an ocean, could never happen, right? But if I have an issue, I want them to know that I'm a positive person. I've complimented them on the things that legitimately they should get compliments on. If I have an issue, you're surprised because you were nice to them and they got to know you, that your issue might get resolved pretty darn quick. That's my notion. That is my approach. And it seems to work for me in almost every cruise that I'm on. But I found no matter where I was, restaurant, pool, spa, all of it, the personalized service was outstanding. So much so that when my friend and I, we always went to the grand dining room for breakfast. When we went over, whoever came in first, his name is Winkler, they say, "Hello, Mr. Winkler. Will Mr. Tilkin be joining you?" Or, "Hello, Mr. Tilkin. Will Mr. Winkler be joining you?" That is personalized service. Now, you can't talk about personalized service without taking it to the next level. And the next level is the employees or crew on a cruise ship have to be empowered to make simple decisions to make their guests happy. They need to be empowered. And I'm here to tell you that the crew on the Oceania Vista are not empowered. I'm here to tell you that the crew on NCL, Celebrity, MSC are not empowered. They're not empowered. So you might have a simple issue that could be handled just like that, that's of high value to you and low cost, and they can't make a decision. They got to go to their supervisor, and their supervisor has to go to their supervisor, and their supervisor has to go to their supervisor. And they look for a way to say no versus a way to say yes. This is an unforced error on all of these big companies. Empowerment makes a brand iconic. So when you go to luxury or ultra luxury, those crew members are empowered. I'm going to give you an example. I went to Red Ginger. I had the prestige package for unlimited drink, and I ordered sake. Now, no menu was put in front of me. Nobody said anything to me. And at the end of the meal, I got handed a bill for $31. Now, $31 is not going to make or break my cruise, but I was shocked. I said, no, I don't get a bill. I have the prestige package. Oh, no, sir. Sake's not included. No one told me. No one gave me a menu. They just brought me sake. That's wrong. And I was a little upset. Did it ruin my cruise? Not at all. I'm not that kind of guy. So I went to talk to the manager. Well, the manager says, well, kind of that's the way it is, but he was nice. He says, you might want to take it up with guest services. It's $31. So I went to guest services. Guest services heard me out, smiled, okay? And they said, wait a minute, we're going to get the head of the drink program to come out and see you. The head of the drink program came out. Now I'm on my third person. It's $31. It's $31. It comes out. Oh yeah, this is it. I said, let me explain. If somebody would have told me, I would have said pass. Nobody told me. That's not fair. That is an error on how the process works. And you know what the head said? He said, I'm going to talk to my supervisor. I can't really guarantee anything. That's what you call a cruise line that's not empowered. What if you had something really serious that was the issue? And a lot of people have. That's something that Oceania needs to work on. And it's relatively simple. But you got to trust your employees and you have to empower your employees. Sorry for the rant, but that's just the way I feel about it. Now, all that being said, the service was great. As long as nothing goes wrong, the service is great. Empowerment would really help. But I was thrilled. Everybody was nice. Everybody was smiling. Everybody was enjoying themselves. It was a beautiful experience. Could it be better? Yes, it can. Is it better on luxury and ultra luxury? Yes, it is. Take that under consideration. But personalized service, I'd give it probably an 8 out of 10. So let's talk about food and dining. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The slogan of the finest cuisine at sea. My opinion, this is not accurate. What it is it's a marketing line. And marketing departments are notorious for making it very difficult, not only for guests, but for the employees and crew on board. Because they say this, guests that have never been on Oceania expect this, then they come on and they realize it's not quite that. Whatever happened to the notion, especially for premium plus clients, of under-promise and over-deliver? It doesn't help them at all to say that it's the best cuisine at sea, especially when it's not true. They can't follow through on their brand promise, and that makes people upset. And you hear a lot of people that are upset about this, especially on social media like Facebook and Cruise Critic, both of which I'm on all the time. So I say this to you: the food is better than some and not as good as others. I thought in general it was really, really good and had a lot of hits, but I also had some memorable misses. And so that, when you have memorable misses like that, is not the finest cuisine in sea. So please have realistic expectations. Now I'll take you through each one of the venue, and remember, food is relative, dining is relative. So what I like, you might not like. So I'll do my best to give you my point of view because I don't know you well enough to give you yours. But I did have 4 people in my party. So I will be fair, I will be balanced, and I will be accurate to the experience that we had. Let's start with the Polo Grill. Of all the restaurants, this was my biggest surprise because back in 2023, we did not like the Polo Grill. As a matter of fact, we hated the Polo Grill. The service was awful. The food was cold. It wasn't good at all. So, hesitantly, we went back this time. Boy, am I glad we did. Because we had an outstanding meal. We had an outstanding server. The food was excellent with the exception of one thing, which was the oysters Rockefeller. My fault. I knew not to get that, but I got it anyway. So just toss that aside. Everything else for the entire meal was great. From the bread to the butter to the steaks to the lobster, you name it, we had a fabulous time, and I did my best to try to get back in and get another opportunity at it. No go, full ship, but boy, what a memorable experience. I think part of what made it memorable was the fact that we went in with low expectations and they exceeded our expectations. Pretty interesting, huh? Next on the list for the Vista was Jacques. Now, Jacques wasn't on the Vista 3 weeks prior to us coming on. They got put back on, and they were on for 2 weeks before we got on. Boy, were we lucky, because Jacques was one of our favorite places to go eat in 2023. Now, prior to Jacques, there was Embers, and it didn't get great reviews, so they brought back Jacques. The service was outstanding. It was luxurious. It was a fine, fine meal. And our favorite thing, which is Dover sole, that is deboned at the table, was chef's kiss. Really excellent. Matter of fact, we actually had a discussion with the chef in another restaurant, and he explained how we did it. These are made to order. These are not pre-made. That's why they're specialty restaurants. But Jacques, from, again, the bread, the butter, those obviously make a difference to me. Everything about the meal, including dessert, was outstanding, and I highly recommend it. That brings us to Toscana. Another one of those restaurants that was not great in 2023. So our expectations were very low. But boy, was it great in 2025. The server we had was the best server of any of the restaurants that we were in. The guy was funny. He was engaging. He couldn't do enough for us. Now let's talk about the meal. The meal from start to finish was fantastic, but there was a special thing that happened that I'm going to share with you that for me makes a big difference. Earlier I mentioned a lot about personalized service. I think it's important. And they sure didn't let me down here. So I love veal, but I didn't necessarily like the veal dishes that they had on the menu. So I asked the server, is it possible that the chef might consider making me a veal Parmesan? It's one of my favorite things. And he says, I cannot guarantee it. What would your second choice be? And I told him another veal dish. And that was it. I kind of left it at there. So our appetizers came out and everybody's oohing and and isn't this delicious? And I'm wondering what I'm going to get for my main course. Well, they brought everybody's main course first and they brought mine last. And when they put it on the table, he made me veal Parmesan. But that's not all it was. It was a bone-in veal chop, pounded like it should be, made into veal Parmesan. Now I'm going to put a picture of it here because I saved it because I was so impressed. The desserts were great. Everything about this was great. But the fact that he did this for me, and this may or may not happen. So you can ask for it, but if it doesn't happen, have realistic expectations. But again, we went into the restaurant with low expectations. We came out of the restaurants with our expectations exceeded. Now that's 3 for 3 on specialty restaurants. Wow, what a great place. Again, I tried to get back in to go one more time, but it didn't happen. So if it doesn't happen for you, you're not the only one. Now that brings us to Red Ginger. Now Red Ginger was our favorite of all the restaurants in 2023. But in this case, the other 3 restaurants, they really went up a notch. So it wasn't our favorite, but it's hard to even choose who's the best and who's the worst because all 4 were great. But we really like Red Ginger. We like the service, we like the atmosphere, we like the food. So I'm going to give you some recommendations. Always get, if you're into it, the chef's sushi plate as an appetizer. It's delicious. We were in there 3 times. It's the only place that we got 2 extra specialty restaurant meals. 3. Each one of them, we got the sushi. Outstanding. The duck salad is outstanding. I love the rack of lamb there. So good. Everything that everyone got in my party was great. Now, when it comes to the actual dessert, take a hard pass on it. It's not great. Just skip it. Everything else is so good. Why take that and down the meal a little bit? Also, if they give you the opportunity to have tea, have tea. You're in an Asian restaurant. Here's the one thing that you don't want to do. Don't have any sake because they're going to charge you $31 for it. And even if you have the best of the best upgraded drink package, they're still going to charge you. So unless you love sake, give it a hard pass. So we loved it. We loved it all 3 times that we were there. It was, again, outstanding. So there's 4 specialty restaurants, and every single one of them was really, really good. So now let's go past specialty restaurants and let's go to some of the other restaurants, shall we? So we just talked about specialty restaurants. Let's talk about the buffet, which is called the Terrace Café, and let's talk about casual dining. I'm not a buffet person. I'm really not. When I go on a cruise ship, it's usually not the best experience that I have. And on day 1, on embarkment day, when we went into the buffet, into the Terrace Café, I was very impressed with the atmosphere outside. We're in Monte Carlo, who wouldn't be? So we had a great seat, we were outside, it was lovely weather. But when I went inside and I looked at what the offerings were, I just wasn't impressed. It didn't grab me. And over there at the carving counter where I expected prime rib, there was turkey. Now I like turkey, I just didn't want to have turkey that day. So I did what everybody should do. I went to the grill. Now the grill in the Terrace Café is different. It's different than the Waves grill. So they can make you some steaks at dinner time or burgers.
and it's to order. So I went over there, I said, okay, I'll have a burger. So I ordered a bacon cheeseburger with fries. And they said, okay. They made it fresh. They said, come back in 8 minutes. There is the difference between premium plus, luxury, and ultra luxury. When you're on luxury and ultra luxury, they take your order, they make it fresh, they either give you a pager or they bring it out to you. When the pager goes off, you either give it to one of the servers and they go get your food, or it tells you to come back and you get your food because it's ready. Here, it's up to you. Put your iPhone on 8 minutes and come back in 8 minutes. I know it's not a big thing, but if you're into personalized service, you can see the difference now between premium plus, luxury, and ultra luxury. It depends on what you really like. So as the week went on, this is interesting. As the week went on, the food and the quality of the food at the Terrace Cafe got better. All of a sudden, they had beef. They had beef Wellington that was spectacular. They also had fresh sushi, not the whole week, just part of the week. So you had to get there and you had to be lucky that it was there and you're not eating someplace else. But to me, the food simply got better as the week went on. And if you're going to go with the Waves Grill, which I'll talk about here in just a second, you can go in there and get a salad or you can get some sushi. Then you can go to the Waves Grill at night and get pizza, which I'll talk about here in a second. So it was kind of the best of both worlds. It was casual, but it was still nice. So there's my take on the buffet or the Terrace Cafe. Now let's talk about the Waves Grill. I always like the Waves Grill. I especially like it for lunch, to get a burger or they have a surf and turf. It's nice. But what you don't know, and I learned from somebody online, is about 12 o'clock to the right of the Waves Grill, the chef makes something special, whether it's shish kebab or it's swordfish or something. It's right next there. Not many people know about it. Not many people talk about it, but it's a great option. Now at dinner time, it turns into kind of like a pizzeria, but and I'm telling you, I was just in Italy. It's pretty darn good pizza. It's pretty darn good pizza. And sometimes after you're eating all this great food at all these other restaurants, sometimes a little pizza and a salad is all you want for dinner. And I found it to be a great option, especially at nighttime. So, was it as good as the specialty restaurants? No, it's not meant to be. Was it a great buffet? Not at all. I've been on other cruise brands recently where the buffet was spectacular, where you'd go out of your way to go there. This was not that buffet, but it was still okay. As my wife would say, it was quite adequate. I don't think I can leave this section without talking about afternoon tea. Now, if 10 years ago you were going to say that I was going to talk about afternoon tea, I'd call you a liar. I'd say, I wouldn't do that. That's not my kind of thing. It is now. I don't know what I like about it. The sandwiches, the tea, the view. It's just really nice. It makes you feel kind of nice. But I recommend, if you're going to do it early in the week, because if you like it, you have more time to do it. It's 4 o'clock every day. So do it early, give it a shot, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's just very relaxing. It allows you to visit. There's a little bit of music. So I kind of like afternoon tea. And I suggest, don't miss it. It's one of those benefits that you don't even know you have until you don't have it anymore. Now let's talk about the barista, which is your own coffee area. It looks beautiful. It has hors d'oeuvres on the side. In the back, go to the back because it has a bakery with fresh baked goods. When you look at it, you go, wow, this is fantastic. Until you get the coffee. In 2023, they had Illy coffee. It was really good. Now, I didn't have I was on a different ship. I was on the Riviera. So I wasn't on quite as new a ship. So it didn't have the bakery in the back and it didn't have a few hors d'oeuvres, but the coffee was spectacular. Spectacular every day. It was because of the coffee beans, Illy. Well, they took Illy beans out. Now they have this beautiful facility that's stunning, great service, and the coffee is not good. Now, my understanding is they're going to change the coffee and bring back Illy, but it wasn't on my cruise, so I'm telling you. It was a disappointment. It was an unforced error. It should have never happened. Don't mess with people's coffee. That's my opinion. He is our barista. Every day he makes us fresh coffee.
Always.
Always. Thank you
and
so
always
much.
good every day.
Always good.
Always good every day.
He's the
like
best.
yesterday, like tomorrow.
Yeah. And all kinds of things you can have in your coffee. And then they have two little sections here. The first section they have has little snacks throughout the day. But where everybody seems to miss it is down here in the back is the bakery. We're halfway through our cruise and Tammy didn't even know that there was a bakery. Look at this. Unbelievable. The baker's back there. All the fresh goods are here. Now that's called living like a rock star right there. Now let's talk about the premium special dining, where you'd have to pay for it. And it's called La Reserve. I was given, because of all the stuff that I do online and my videos, Oceania gave me a dinner for two that was going to be the Odyssey menu with a wine pairing. I was very excited about it. But I noticed that Oceania did not advertise it at all. It was nowhere. You couldn't book it pre-cruise anywhere. It was just nowhere. So, but I was excited. Here's this little thing they're going to give me. I appreciate it. My wife's going to enjoy it. She loves wine. Then we get on board, and a day or two in, they say it's canceled because there wasn't enough attendance. No wonder you didn't advertise it. I don't know if you even wanted to have it. But if they do have it, it's a nice experience. I've done similar experiences on other cruise brands, and it's always been a highlight of the cruise. So I was a little disappointed that it wasn't there. Now there's different menus. There's the Odyssey menu, and then there's two others. The other one I remember is a Dom Perignon, which is rather expensive, but if you're into it, again, what a great experience, as long as it's not canceled. So remember what I said, under promise and then over deliver? A little disappointing, didn't ruin my cruise, because I just went to someplace else with my friends, which, by the way, they weren't going to be joining us, so we had another evening together. So it all turned out positive. That brings us to bars and lounges. One of the things that I do is I find the bars that I like the best, and that's where I go. Drinks are the same. It's the same Belvedere vodka. So in my case, the first bar we went to, because I made a mistake in 2023 and I didn't get my group a drink quick enough, was the pool bar. I loved it. It was great. It was casual, great service, great drinks. Again, just wonderful experience. But for your pre-meal drink, the place I go to is always Martini's. I love that place. We were literally there every single night before dinner. Now, on the nights that we went to the port, we came back early, we started early. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we were those people. We were having a good time. Sometimes we got a little too loud. I remember once there was somebody that one of my friends, Mr. Winkler, met, and they were from Canada, and he grew up in Detroit, and they were singing the Canada National Anthem at the top of their lungs in Martini's. Now I'm looking around and I'm seeing a lot of people smiling, the kind of smiles that said, we want to party with those people. But there were a few that gave us the old side eye. And for those people, I'm sorry, but we were having a good time. You should have joined us. Anyway, we love Martini's. And I'm going to put a little bit of a clip of Martini's with the piano player and a little tour of it in this right after I'm done talking. But I will tell you, it was my favorite place. We met some of the best servers. They were so kind to us. There was one guy from Russia. We had such a great relationship with him. He came to us towards the end and gave us little Russian chocolates. You remember what I said? I love personalized service? You sure got it at Martini's. Now here's a little view of Martini's. Give it a shot. And I will tell you, my favorite drink there, bar none, was called the Big O. It's a martini. It was delicious. Now, some other honorable mentions would be the Horizon Lounge, which we went into, and it was great because there was a band there, and the band was great, and they were doing Motown, and they did a great set. The service, they were all over you. If you wanted a drink, you could have it, and the show was great. That's also where they usually do karaoke, and it was a fun place. So it's an honorable mention. And I already talked to you about the pool bar, which the service was great. If you were sitting there and your drink was low, there would be somebody there to help you. Now that is not the same level of attention I've gotten from other cruise lines, but that was the personalized attention that we got on the Oceania Vista. So I give them high praise and compliments for what they did during their bar service. Now I can't leave here without doing two things. The first thing I want to do is tell you, I don't like having to give my cabin card every time I get an adult beverage. I just don't like it. I think it takes away from it a little bit. But the reason is because Oceania has so many different drink programs. And look, they changed from the time I booked this cruise, they changed several times. So you have your standard, which either comes or doesn't come with your fare. The standard is you get wine, beer, and champagne or Prosecco at lunch and dinner, even if it's room service. Well, that's kind of nice. Or you have the prestige package, which is unlimited spirits, wine, beer, champagne, whenever there's a bar open. But when you have so many different programs, that means that they have to know which program you're in, so they know whether to charge your room or not to charge your room, and therefore you have the card. I don't like it. Now, I've been on several luxury and ultra luxury cruise lines. Everybody has the same drink package. There's no upgrade. So you don't need a card. And I find that much better from a personalized service standpoint. So that's my opinion of it. Now, if you don't want to get the upgraded package, which by the way, the prestige package, I always get it. I don't drink that much. The other people in my party drink much more than I do, but I don't drink it. But I always get it because I know what it's going to cost. I never worry about it. There's never going to be a drink cost under my door at the last day. So that's why I do it. Everybody does things for a different reason. So, but it was $30 a day per person as an upgrade. And while I'm on the ship, I learned from other people, it just went up to $40 a day per person. Just understand, if you don't want to do that, you have the captain's event, they have free drinks. You have a couple of other events, newcomers, oldcomers, whatever, free drinks. They have one, they used to have two, but they have one happy hour. It's after dinner, and it's 2 for 1, same drink. So if you and your spouse drink the same, you get one, and you get really one for each of you, and it only costs you for one drink. If you drink vodka and your spouse drinks gin, then you're going to have to get 2 for 1 on the vodka and 2 for 1 on the gin. That's how it works. But it gets to be a little bit confusing. I think what Oceania should do is just have one drink package and be done with it. Now that's going to make some people mad because when they forced you to get the standard drink package and made it part of your fare, oh my God. Because Oceania also allows you to bring wine and spirits on board. And some people try to keep it as a bargain and a value by not having to pay that. So no matter what they do now, they're going to make somebody unhappy. But I personally don't like giving my card. I would much rather everybody have the same drink package. But I might be 1 out of 10 that feels that way. Just wanted you to know my feelings. So now let's talk about the spa and other treatments that you can get at the spa. I learned my lesson. I looked for if there was a way to pre-book my massages pre-cruise. And there was nothing online. There was nothing. Then all of a sudden I said, you know what, I'm going to ask Cruise Critic. And I asked Cruise Critic and they said, oh, yeah. 60 days before you cruise, you can book your spa treatments. You just have to call somebody, and it's not Oceania. It's actually the company that runs the spa. I didn't know that. So I'm going to put the phone number up here. It's in Miami, and you can call 60 days, and their office opens up at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Call right away if you want a massage on a spa day. I called at 57 days. And at 57 days, I couldn't get a time for massage on a sea day. I knew that. That's why I wanted to know, could I get it early? Because I didn't want to have to go on board and rush to the spa and hope that I could get it. Well, lesson learned. Now let's talk about the spa. I think that the spa is very nice. It's not the nicest spa I've been into, but it looks beautiful. And I'm going to explain the reason why, because everything I do emphasizes that I want personalized service. I walk into the spa and they're not cheap. Massages are not cheap. I walk in, they say hi, they point me to the room and they give me a clipboard and they have me fill something out. It's a little round room, it's pretty. And then you go in and you get your massage. The masseuse comes and gets you. And you go in there and you get your massage. At the end of my massage, I said to the masseuse, you have a shower here, do you mind if I take a shower? And she goes, no, you can't take a shower because I have somebody right after you. I said, I know you do. It's my wife. And she starts to laugh. She says, no, I'm sorry, but we have to clean the room and sanitize it. Now, I thought about that. And I went, Do you know what they didn't do that almost every other spa did do, and it was a big miss? When I walked in, they would take you for a tour. They would take you for a tour into the locker rooms. They would take you for a tour into the back of the ship, or actually the front of the ship, which is a special area that's available at complimentary to concierge and above. It's my favorite place, by the way, because it has 2 hot tubs and it has a thermal spa and it's outside and it's never crowded. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The only thing it doesn't have is a bar, but it does have soft drinks. It's beautiful. Didn't take me there. Didn't tell me anything about any of the other amenities. Nothing. Just put me in the room and I go into the massage. Now, they didn't tell me that I could get a robe, I could change, I could shower, nothing. That's a miss. With what you're paying, you should have gotten that. Now, we went to 2 massages. I will tell you that the actual massages were very good. Was it worth what we paid? Absolutely not. It never is. You're a captive audience. You're not going to get the massage for the same amount as you will on land. But do I do it almost each and every time, especially with my wife? Absolutely. I'm on vacation, and it makes me, for just that 1 hour for that massage, feel like a rock star. I just can't leave here without saying it again. The best kept secret is that area in the front of the ship. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Can you imagine? Here we are. We're in Monte Carlo, or here we're in some other beautiful place, and you're up there in a hot tub with a Pepsi, looking out, and there's nobody there. You get everything that you want. It's like your own personal oasis. Please go there. Take a tour of it. Know that it's there. Don't learn about it from me after the fact. I don't even know what to say. It's one of my favorite areas.
This is the view from the front of the ship where they have the little hot tubs and lounge chairs, and that's a thermal spa. I am literally the only person here. I don't know how I pulled this off, but wow, this is the place to be. That brings me to getting on and off the ship. It was a breeze.
Let me tell you my strategy though. You always have to have a strategy. I really don't like doing excursions, which will be my next section, by the way. I'll do excursions if the cruise brand gives you like free money for excursions that you can only use for excursions, which was the case for this cruise. So when I don't do excursions, I go with my friend Howie and we go and have breakfast at the grand dining room and we take our time. Our wives like to sleep in, perfect. I always say, let the crazies get off the ship first. And then when you want to get off the ship, there's no line. You just get off the ship, you go to the city or whatever you want, and you do what you want to do. You come back on when you want to, but getting on and off the ship, it was a breeze. It was easy. Now, when you came back on the ship, I thought it was very nice that as you're going back on the ship, they give you a wet rag. Just a little thing, but it makes a big difference. It was notable. So back on the ship we go. Now on the last day, when we got off the ship, we didn't have a connection because we were going to spend that day in Venice and come back the day after. So when they give you the questionnaire of, do you have to get off quick? Do you have a quick connection? And we said, no, we have our own arrangements. We had a driver waiting for us. So we went, we had breakfast, we let the crazies get off, and then we walked off the ship. And from the time we left the ship to get our luggage, to be outside for our driver was less than 7 minutes. Now, part of this is because it's a smaller ship that only has 1,250 people versus a huge ship with 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people. It's just a whole nother ball of wax. So you gotta make a decision. If you want a big ship, it's not gonna be quite as smooth as that. And even if you're in one of the higher suites, it's still gonna be a little rough, okay? But when you're on a small ship, it's much more chill. And it suits me better, especially at this stage in my life. You might agree or disagree. You give up things though. You give up slides and you give up go-karts and you give up the huge shows. And I don't need those anymore. I'm going for the ports. Now, if you want those things, understand that when you get on and off the ship with those big ships, it might be a little more stressful. I thought this was a really positive experience with the Oceania Vista.
You can't talk about a cruise without talking about the excursions. Now, on this cruise on the Oceania Vista, we took 4 excursions. 2 were Oceania excursions, and the reason why we took those 2 was because when we booked the fare back in 2023, they gave us $800 of onboard credit that can be used only for excursions. So you either use it or lose it. And the second 2 I booked with a third-party source based on previous vacations to the specific areas. So I'm going to start with the Oceania excursions. So my wife, Tammy, went into Oceania excursions. She looked, she knew she had $800 and she knew she had 4 people. So $800 for one cabin, $800 for another cabin. And instead of getting a lot of inexpensive excursions, she got 2 relatively expensive excursions. And it was worth it. And I highly recommend doing that. I'm not into walking tours. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to get an on-off bus, a hop-on, hop-off bus, or I'm going to do something else. But when I'm going to a very interesting place, I'm going to book the more expensive, usually with a lunch involved. So I'm going to start this description on excursions with the Oceania excursions. Now, the first excursion that we took was for Corfu, which is Greece, and it was called the Enchanted Views and Local Cuisine, and I rated it a B+. Now, I'm going to tell you about that one first, and then I'll go to the second one. It started out with a bus ride from the port, so it was relatively easy to get in the bus was nice, and boom, all of a sudden the first issue happened. The bus air conditioning didn't work, and this was a 4.5 hour excursion. So we kind of started to get a little bit uncomfortable and told the tour director, hey, if this is the way it's going to be, we refuse to be on this tour for 4.5 hours. So let us off. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. We're going to put you on a new bus.
So they took a tour around the town, came back, we switched buses, and we're off to the races. It all worked itself out. Now on this tour, there was lunch, and there's obviously viewing. And this is an interesting one. I actually rated this a B+, so if you ever consider it, it's in my opinion, it's a B+. It went up this mountain, this giant bus went up this mountain. It's impossible to go up the mountain in a car, but this bus was making it up the mountain. So you had all those views going up the mountain, always thinking that you're going to be going off the mountain. Then it got to specific areas as you get to the top of the mountain. And on these specific areas on the top of the mountain, there was only room for one vehicle. So there was a wait and a procedure, and the bus had to wait for cars to come by, and then we went forward. And then we ended up at the very top, which, by the way, had the most stunning, beautiful views. And we went up to this little restaurant that was on the top with all the views, and the views were lovely. Now, the lunch itself was just okay, but the views were lovely. Now, when I say just okay, it was pretty good, but it wasn't like premium, but it didn't make a difference. And then you went downstairs, and there's places to shop, and I found the best donut and cappuccino ever. The donut was the size, it was this big. It was fantastic. Get back in the bus. Now going down, it was far less of an issue. So the real tour was going up. Going down was much quicker. They dropped us off right by where the cruise ship was. Very nice excursion, beautiful pictures. I'll try to show you some throughout this entire process. So that was, in my opinion, that was a pretty good brand excursion. The next Oceania excursion was called Dubrovnik. It was Dubrovnik, and the name of the excursion was the Riviera Cruise, Old Town Highlights, and Lunch. So it was more expensive than the first one, and you could tell when you went on it. The first thing that we did was we got on a little boat. Now it was a little cold in the morning, so it's just you have to get dressed up. But it was beautiful. The views were beautiful. The boat took us over. We took a little tour of the town. It was really lovely. And to add to this, they gave you an earpiece so that you could actually hear the cruise guide or the tour guide giving us information about it. And it was in different stages. And by the way, Dubrovnik is one of the areas where they did Game of Thrones. So that was a big theme. We saw all kinds of interesting places that was in the Game of Thrones, including the stairs that the Queen came down when she was being shamed, and she didn't have any clothes on. And it got all kinds of interesting stories of what tourists have done there. I thought it was fabulous. Then a little bit of time just to walk around. We got some local bakery items. It was delicious. And then they took us to lunch. And I wasn't expecting much because the lunch in the prior excursion was just okay. This lunch was as good or better than any specialty restaurant on the cruise ship. With a view, with great service, it was really good. Then we got out of lunch, we went up a little hill, and we took a cable car. And I'm going to show you some videos of that cable car. And we went up in the cable car all the way to the top of the mountain. It was spectacular. The views were tremendous. It was great. Then we got on a bus. They brought us back down. And it was just, in my opinion, it was one of the best excursions I've ever taken. And I rated it an A+. So I highly recommend this one. Now I'm going to show you some videos of some of the things that we did and we had. I hope you like it right after this. And then I'll move on to the 2 excursions that I booked with a third party. We're on a cable car. That's where they filmed Game of Thrones. And we're going up to the top of the mountain.
So that's a good job.
It's been a good job. The past 10 years have been we used to fly air images. American flies, it's good flights. They called out everybody in bed. He said, "I'm leaving in 2 hours."
Still on the cable car. Different view.
Yeah, we go a lot in Arizona because they don't have the same problems.
The first third-party excursion was in Rome. Now, we went to Rome on the very first cruise we did in the Mediterranean in 2023 on Oceania, and we went to the Vatican. And it was tough. It was a lot of walking. We went to the Sistine Chapel. We were exhausted, just exhausted. And then I went back in 2024 with my daughter on just no cruise, just land-based. And we found a great company, and my daughter and I did Vespa tours with the sidecars. We both got a Vespa with a tour person and a sidecar, and it was great. We used that same company, but instead of doing Vespas, we did a golf cart. I highly recommend this. It was fantastic. It was 4 hours. We went through all the different sites of Rome. We didn't get exhausted. He stopped at a pizzeria. We got some pizza. He took us to this beautiful park. They brought Prosecco as part of the tour. So we had pizza and Prosecco. It was great. They took us back, got back on the train, went back to the ship. A really great excursion. The next excursion was in Kotor, Montenegro, and it was a Rick Stevens food tour. And on this situation, I would not recommend it. Now, was the tour guide good? Yes, she was great. She lived there, great history, went through this little town, pretty little town. By the way, pretty and little means we would have been better off just doing a self-tour because it's all together. And it was just lovely, really. Now, the reason why I didn't really like it is because it's a food tour and I was expecting a bit more. And all we did was go to a couple of shops, and then she brought us to some restaurants. The first restaurant was for a drink. It was nice. The second restaurant was for food. And they gave us this giant plate of appetizers that some were good, some were lousy, and then the main courses, which were horrible. They were bad. And it ended up in another restaurant having dessert, which was spectacular. So, you know, when you're rating a food tour like that, you expect to be blown away by something. And when the only thing that you're blown away by is the actual dessert, that's not the food tour for you. So I do not recommend that. I just recommend if you go there, just take a tour. They had some pizza shops there that would blow your socks off. So, I mean, it's a much better approach for if you go to this specific port. Now for I guess you could call it a hot topic, entertainment. You gotta understand that when you go on the big ships, I mean the really big mainstream ships, the ones that have 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 and higher number of guests, their budget for entertainment is far higher than even a premium plus, luxury, or ultra luxury ship. It's just the way it works. So it's a completely different approach, environment. The big shows aren't there. The fancy shows aren't there. The Broadway shows aren't there. There's only 1,250 people on board. So you tend to have a lot of the crew doing shows, and you have a group of entertainers that do shows, whether it's dancing and singing and themes, but they all seem to be the same. They all seem to be like Billy Joel or something like that, or ABBA. And after a while, so my wife and our friends have this little thing that we do. We sit in the back of the main showroom, in the corner, by the exit, on the aisle. And if the show is good, we stay. And if the show is bad, we quietly leave. I don't think we made one show we didn't like the shows, and we much preferred just going to Martini's and listening to the piano player. Now, that's not everybody's situation. Some people like the shows. Some people like some of the shows. Some people like all the shows. I'm just giving you my opinion. But my strategy, again, get a drink, sit by the exit, leave if you don't like the show, so you don't bother anybody else. That's my overall impression from the entertainment on board. Now, disembarkment day. Now, I bring this up because it's been a hot topic on other cruise ships, but in this scenario, it was a breeze. It really was a breeze. Now, remember, they give you a survey. They say, do you have a plane reservation that leaves early? Do you need to get off the ship right away? And then they book you off the ship first. They put you in a category to take you off the ship. So it's not necessarily based on the category that you're in, Penthouse, Oceania Suite, Vista Suite, Owner Suite. It's, do you need to get off right away? Now, obviously, if you're in the upper end suite, you can do whatever you want to do, but do you need, we didn't. So we had a later time to get off the ship. Now, what we did have is we had a driver waiting for us to take us from the port to Venice proper, which was about a 2-hour drive and then a water taxi. I was looking forward to it, but we could take it easy. So what we did was we went to breakfast at the Grand Dining Room, wonderful breakfast, quietly. When we were done, we simply went up and walked right off the ship. Now, because we went in Europe and out in Europe, there was no real security. We grabbed our bags, were outside waiting for our driver. From the time we actually left the dining hall to the time that we had our bags and we were outside was less than 10 minutes. Now, I gotta give Oceania kudos on this. It was well organized, well thought out. Everything went really well. This is the last day. The first day was the same. It was very well organized. Now, I cannot say the same thing when I've gone on cruises out of Miami. And I'm not talking about Oceania. I'm talking about cruises, including the luxury cruises. This was a breath of fresh air. High grades to Oceania for this. Now, my final thoughts. Is Oceania right for you? I've given you my personal opinions. A lot of things that I say, there's a lot of people that would contradict, will definitely contradict what I say. You know, if it has to do with entertainment or food or the dining halls that I like or don't like. It's just the nature of social media. I'm just giving you my take. And if you've liked my take with all my other videos and all my other writings, then just use it as, he might be right, but we can check it out. But my goal was really to show you what was really great, some misses, if you would, that you could avoid so that you can manage your overall experience to make your experience better. So let me just start with this. When I go back on this 10-day Mediterranean cruise on the Vista with my wife and our friends Howard and Diane Winkler, we had a fabulous time. It was, in my opinion, even better than going on the Oceania Riviera in 2023, again going to the Mediterranean. So that should tell you something. The next thing you need to know is I've been on luxury and ultra luxury lines. So I made many comparisons throughout this of the difference between Premium Plus, Oceania, a ship within a ship, the Haven, the Retreat, or the Yacht Club, and luxury and ultra luxury. I've made some associations so that if you're looking to like, hey, let's give it a try, here's some things you can look forward to, here's some things that you might want to avoid. But let's talk about it just for a second. For my wife, Tammy, and our friends, it was a beautifully designed ship that never felt crowded with 1,250 people on there. A comfortable penthouse that became a true home at sea. A butler who made our days smoother and our mornings gentler. Some truly memorable meals, especially in Jacques, Toscana, and Polo Grill. The port that reminded us why we fell in love with the Mediterranean. It's just it was spectacular. Now, at the same time, there were a few realities. And the reality is Oceania is not, nor does it advertise itself to be, an all-inclusive ultra-luxury product. You feel that you want ultra-luxury, this is not what you want. But what you can do is what I did. You can do all your due diligence up front. You can pre-book everything and prepay for everything and make it as all-inclusive as possible. So it'll come close, but it's going to take a little bit of extra time on your part. The other is the food was a blend of hit and misses. The finest cuisine at sea? I don't think so. If you really want to ask me what the finest cuisine at sea is, it's going to be kind of a tie between Crystal Cruises, which was outstanding, and Explorer Journeys cruises. But both of those are ultra luxury cruises. You see, there is a difference. You pay a little more, you get a little more. So all in all, you had many, 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 many positives, and you have some areas that they can work on. So now you decide. If you value a smaller ship that goes into smaller ports, if you value very comfortable accommodations, multiple complimentary specialty restaurants, and thoughtful itineraries and ports that have pretty good logistics, then you need to choose or consider choosing Oceania. If what you want is something different, I've given you those comparisons throughout this review. So won't you do me a favor? Knock on the bottom there and tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are. Do you think that you want to go on Oceania? Is there a question that you have for me? Click the like. Let me know how you really feel about this. Also, feel free to go to my description where I'm going to give you my email address so you can send me a question if you want to, or if you want something that I use, a tool if you would. I'm also going to give you the playlist for both the cruises that I've done, and the reviews, and the travel products that I've done. And I'm going to give you a timeline so you can go to any part of this video and you can go to where you want to go. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to work with me and go on this journey with me. If you like what I do, let me know. Remember, cruise well and enjoy every minute.